you're going to see something out here that's so unique because it's like, really, they went inside a prison to play basketball? Did anybody get stabbed? Did anybody get something done to them? No, none of that's happening here in San Quentin. The moment they step on the court, all that other stuff goes out the window. It's basketball. Jack that thing up, feed the ball over the half man, half amazing. He's looking at Khalid like he's fresh meat. And Lacey said, get that out of here. Dan over, feed it back over Dan. Dan fires that up in the face. That was in the face. A deep three-point exfoliation by Dan on the green team.
Oh my God, I watched sports ball with that. Welcome back, everybody. That was a clip from Cue Ball, a documentary on basketball players at San Quentin prison in Northern California. The documentary features this man, Aaron Showtime Taylor, the play-by-play announcer. Aaron served 26 years, in prison. But as you can see from the clip, his skills behind the mic are incredible. And they actually caught the attention of the Golden State Warriors. After Aaron's release last year, they invited him to be a guest PA where he hugged Stephen Curry, which is awesome. He's the sweetest guy. Here to talk about it, please welcome Aaron Showtime Taylor, everybody. Oh my God. Okay, I'm gonna be real with you. I really only go to sports ball events for like the food and beverage.
Right.
I like playing sports, but I don't like watching them as much, but I would totally watch if you were doing that the whole time. You're amazing at it.
It took a lot of practice to get there.
Oh my gosh. Well, it must have been a surreal moment to like, after all of that, 26 years and getting out, doing the Warriors game, and beating Stephen, like, was that a really crazy moment that you ever thought would happen?
Well, you always want to keep your hope and your dreams alive, and you want to keep yourself rooted in faith. So I always had a vision that it would happen, but when it did happen, like I used there on the camera, it was definitely surreal, the whole process. And to even have him step back and say, here, man, you take this post-game interview. You know, that was real deep.
Wow. That was so cool. And I love that. Everybody needs to continually dream big. I agree with that. Well, let's talk about how you ended up in prison. Because do you mind sharing what happened?
No, I don't mind. Back in 1994, you know, I had some issues with drugs and a failed relationship. And I found a gun in my hand, you know, something that I was used to in the past. And I went in and I tried to rob a furniture store, and I was shot in the face and taken to jail. While I was in prison, though, I had an opportunity based on the places that I went to address some of the childhood traumas that I dealt with, right? Well, actually that I hadn't dealt with. And to be able to get into some rehabilitative groups, right? And also to tap into my own spiritual teachings and whatnot. And so around 2007, 2008, I really got deeply involved in both of them at the same time while I was involved with basketball as well. And I was doing play-by-play on the yard for people. And so it really helped in my healing process, right, to mature myself into the person that I became to today.
I couldn't agree with that more, because I feel like I was a completely different person before singing was my outlet. And I found that, and it really helped me develop my confidence, my personality, and kind of who I felt like I was meant to be,
right,
and like my purpose.
Right.
And do you feel like, calling those games, like doing that kind of not only distracted you from like being in prison, but also kind of just kept you kind of inspired and like excited about what was going to happen tomorrow, and kind of, I don't know, helped you dream bigger? Do you feel like that kind of changed you? Well,
all of those are personal goals. Yeah. My goal intentionally was to uplift the basketball players on the court. Yeah. How I sound on film and how I sound, when I'm doing the game is only at the level of the basketball players that I'm calling the game for. So if you view me as good, then imagine over a 26-year period, the type of games that I call for players that the world will never see because they made a left turn or a right turn and ended up in prison, and I was in there with them, and I was blessed with the ability to call play-by-play for those guys. So I'm a compendium, right, of those basketball players over the 26 years. So if I'm good, you can blame them.
Well, and what's interesting is what you said, though. I've heard you say that before, that there's so much talent.
Yeah.
Like and you said they took a left turn, but who knows who they could have been outside the bars,
One of the things that Bob Myers, who was at the time the general manager of the Golden State Warriors, one of the things he used to say was, sometimes people get dealt from the bottom of the deck, right? Which is true, right? In my case, it wasn't a deal from the bottom of the deck. I actually committed the crime that brought me in there. However, we're all in there together. So we're trying to make the best of a situation, right? And just like you said a moment ago, it's an escape plan when you're on the basketball court, because everybody's got a basketball court.
Yeah.
But then once Showtime start talking, now you feel like you're in a stadium because now I'm attracting people who normally wouldn't pay attention to the basketball game over to the basketball
The
court.
energy changes.
Right. And even at one point when I was at Sentinella State Prison before I got to San Quentin, I mean, you had guards, you had captains, lieutenants, people coming from the administration office just to come over and watch these games and listen to this play-by-play.
Yeah.
And that's when I actually started dreaming. Somebody asked me, do you think you could do this professionally? And that's when that big dream you just spoke about tapped in right there. It was like, okay, I might be able to go big with this.
Yeah.
You know.
What was the first time? Like, how did you end up doing it? Like the first game you called?
So the first game I tried to do,
I love it, tried.
yeah, I tried to do. I was trying to imitate Chick Hearn, right?
Okay.
I failed terribly. It was at what's now Palms Park. It used to be called Overland Park back in the day. And then when I went to the county jail after I was arrested, I used to stand on the side of the court and make calls, right? And then when I went to state prison, I got underneath the basketball court, so I have a vision like this, right? And I can see the whole court. And so now I'm calling people by NBA names, and now, like you said, the energy raises up. But one of the things that used to happen, like if there was a back pick, I know you only play sports ball, but I'm gonna get to you in a minute on the guitar in a minute. But if I'm calling plays that took place off the ball, now I'm alerting other players to something that they shouldn't have been knowing about. So I had to pull back on what I was doing. And so what I started doing, since I wasn't calling a play, I'd insert a joke, like from Richard Pryor or Robin Williams or somebody like that, George Carlin.
Comedy is always good.
Definitely. But,
Yeah.
you know, I also had to have a reputation. You know, you don't want to beat up Chick Hearn because he said something about you in the basketball game. So there was people had to get used to it.
Yeah.
And it turned out to be a really, really good thing.
That's amazing. And that's an amazing thing, too. You know the game so well that you could know what was about to happen, or you knew the players so well at that point.
Well, you
That's
could
cool.
sometimes when you are versed in your talent as a singer, you would know this.
The intuition.
It's not just even intuition, it's a spiritual energy that hits you.
Agreed.
And it takes you to a place where other people like,
Yeah.
but that's exactly what happens in the play-by-play as well, is there's an energy that hits you and you go with the energy and the energy takes you exactly where you're supposed to be at.
You have a very good energy in general right now. It's so.
Why
it's
you make
so
a brother
light, and
blush
it's
like that?
No, it's so nice. It's peaceful. It's like you have such a great, chill energy. So, well, earlier this month, the Golden State Warriors invited Aaron to be the guest public announcer. Following the game, Stephen Curry presented Aaron with the game ball. So you got choked up. Anyone would get choked up. But I mean, what did you feel in that moment? Like how cool and how big was that for you?
So the night before I caught the plane, right? I thought about all the guys I did play-by-play for. I put them in my heart, right? I thought about all the people who helped me get to that point.
Yeah.
Put them in my heart. I thought about all of the people who are incarcerated who don't get the opportunity to tell the victims and the survivors of the crime that they committed, right? Because they have a wall there that keeps you from contacting them. And so I thought about them and I put them in my heart.
Oh, goodness.
And then after that, I put the survivors and the victims of the crime that I committed and the ones that my brothers and sisters in blue committed against them. And I took this group and put it in my heart as well. Because in the criminal justice reform conversation, their words usually get lost. Their feelings get lost. Their sentiments get lost. And so they needed me to speak for them as well, as an individual who had tapped into empathy in some of the groups that I had taken and put myself in another person's shoes and understanding what the victim and the survivor of a crime is feeling. And it was getting lost, so I put them in my heart too. So when Steph Curry handed me the ball, and then the guy asked me the question, and I said, this is surreal, all of those people hit me at the same time. And I can feel them pulling on my heart. And so I had to stop for a minute to gather myself.
Ooh, because that's a lot. That's a lot of weight.
Well, I understood that going into the Chase Center and having this spotlight put on me, was going to be life-changing for me, but I didn't want it to be totally about me.
Yeah.
I wanted to be about something bigger than me. You know, I wanted it to be about a message that I wanted to send out to people, that not just you can do 26 years and come out and improve yourself, but you can do whatever amount of time you do and start to think big about yourself. Open your heart up for love for other people. You know what I'm saying? Have the ability to want to apologize.
Yeah.
Want to say this was the worst day of my life and I'm sorry I put that trauma on you.
Yeah.
You know, and have the victim and the survivor look and know that it wasn't their fault what happened to them. They didn't do anything wrong, especially in my case. I'm gonna speak for me personally on that one. The people in the furniture store and the other people, they didn't do anything wrong. You know, this was me not understanding the trauma that I had dealt with as a child and then bringing all my trauma into their shop, you know, and trying to execute a robbery on them. So once I got into that place and he asked me that question, those were the emotions that hit me all at once, you know, from 4 or 5 different angles.
And yeah, just the energy of that. And I think it's just a beautiful thing too, like a completely different way, but like even coming from like, you know, the middle of nowhere where I'm from, you know, and poor kid, like I think I get in those moments and I get choked up because I'm like, how did I get fortunate enough to like be able to end up here? Like we can dream big, we can hustle, we can do all we do. But, you know, there's those moments and I bet you're thinking too, like there's some of those guys that are still in there and you're outside of it and you got this big moment. And I get the gravity of like just a big scenario like that and it's overwhelming.
Well, it's like I said, it's my brothers and sisters in blue who I know want to say, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But we, like I said, we have this artificial wall that's called a law that says you can't never contact them. I've never been able to contact the people who I harmed.
Yeah.
Right. And so because
they won't let you write letters, they won't let you do anything.
So they have an exercise in the self-help groups where you write out an apology letter.
Yeah.
Right. And in my case, I took that with me to the Board of Prison hearings when it was time for me to come up for parole.
Yeah.
And the commissioners were allowed to read it. Right. So they could see the formulation of empathy and sympathy and understanding and how you change in your heart. Right. They could see it all in that apology letter. And at the end of the apology letter, I told the one individual, again, I won't name him because it's against the law, but I told him, I want to be able to sit in front of you one day so you can see the changes that you made. Because here's what happened. While I'm trying to commit this robbery, I get shot in the face and I go down. Now, in my world, as a quote unquote thug at that time, when you go down, well, you know, whatever happens to you happens to you. But this man showed me mercy. He stopped his employee from hitting me in the face with a rifle and said, the police are coming, leave him alone. And maybe 7 or 8 years into my sentence, I sat back and I thought about that. I was like, wow. I went in there and tried to do something to this guy. And in the end, he showed me mercy. So I owed it to him to become a better person.
Wow.
I had to show him that he made the right decision by not killing me that day.
And you owe it to yourself because you can see that in yourself. You see that you're not that person.
Yeah, but again, it's bigger than me. I have to always take it outside of me.
Yeah.
Because I'm Aaron Showtime Taylor. I'm a basketball play-by-play commentator, and I'm pretty good at it.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for that man's mercy.
Yeah.
You know, and that man showing me that mercy made me want to be a better person. It made me want to start teaching other people. Like I said at the Chase Center, once I discovered that I could be more than I thought I was, then it was time for me to teach other people that you can be more than what you think you are. And this is based on that man's merciful move towards me. I thank him every day. I pray for him every day, him and his family. I don't know if I'm gonna ever meet him, right? Hopefully he sees the show and it triggers some positive memories. I doubt the positive part, but him having the ability to hear me, right? And see the look on my face, that's more important than anything else to me right now.
Wow. Well, there's someone in particular who made a huge difference for you.
Yeah.
So can you tell us about him?
So before I went to San Quentin, I met a guy at Calipatria State Prison in 2002. His name is Tobias Tubbs. Tobias gave me a vision of spirituality that I'd never seen before. You know, everything was always about who's right and who's wrong. But when I met Tobias, it was about who do you love? How much love can you pull up out of your heart for somebody else? Can you love yourself, right? And then love somebody else naturally and purely after that, right? And so that was completely radical to me. I'd never heard of anything like that. But thanks to Tobias, he's part of the reason also that I became the person that I am today that you're talking to.
Wow. Now I want to bring in Tobias, a man who Aaron says helped turn his life around. So welcome to the show, Tobias. We love having you here. So you were both in prison together, he was telling us. So what struck you about Aaron?
First of all, thank you for giving us this humbling opportunity. This means a lot, not only for us, as he said, but the hundreds of thousands of people sitting on bunks right now, waiting to turn on your show, and they see us.
Yeah.
That births a lot of hope, especially right now. But I personally went to prison at the age of 20 for a crime I didn't commit. It was a murder up out of Compton, and they gave me a death sentence, and under the super predator narrative. And I vowed myself that I'm not going to allow that to define me in that moment, that I'll just be defined by that one moment at my life as an adolescent. Fast forwarding to 2002, like you said, I'm 32 years old. I've dealt with probably hundreds to maybe a few thousand men at that point. And our whole thing was about investing in good. We're coming from positions of being broken. We're coming from positions of trauma. We're coming from positions of shame and lack on generational levels. And so when I seen Aaron with his fists all balled up and agitated and upset and, you know, telling people a piece of his mind, I said, if he can get past that pain, if he can get past that bitterness, then that light can come out of him. And so all I did, and a few other brothers who supported that endeavor of giving men an opportunity to love, to be loved, to express themselves, we gave that to him, and the better parts of his humanity came forth, as we're now recognizing.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Well, you continue to work with ex-prisoners, right? And what makes the biggest difference for them?
Simply, I would say, the magic of a smile. Smiles are revolutionary in prison because normally everybody's frowning. To say that I love you and mean it. Hugs. People know that I'm a hugger. Out here, that's nothing, but in prison, it's everything. When there is no hugging, there is no smiling, there is no I love you. But on a greater extent, I'm a part of a group of men and women create good ventures. And it's really now about creating opportunities and good experiences. Words Uncaged, for instance, incarcerated artists, incarcerated students, people who want to cultivate their voice so the world will be able to hear who we are and do those apologies from a sincere place. Understanding when we were children, we didn't understand the harm that affected us and now the harm that we have placed on someone else. Now as adults. So basically, if you ask me in simple terms, we need ability, we need means of expression, we need opportunity. And these kinds of networking that we're doing here today, that is what we need for, I guess we'd say, reentry peoples.
Yeah, and I have to ask, at the beginning of that, did you say that you didn't commit the murder? Right? So
I know.
This is my question.
Yes. Because
that's hitting me. You're such a sweet, sincere, like, you know, all the things you're saying. I'm like, how was there a time before this that you, I mean, resentment, bitterness, anger, rage, like I would have experienced all of those personally, having had that happen to me. I mean, what made you flip the script? Like what happened with you?
To be truthful, for one, I turned myself in. I heard there was a warrant for my arrest. I was 3,000 miles away in South Carolina. And my mother asked me, son, if you did it, I love you, mama. She said, run. But if you, yeah, real talk. That's why I love my mama. But we were both naive, so we would think justice. And I was a pro-am basketball player, and it's three of us who was involved with the case. I wasn't in the house during the murders. So I was thinking if I take culpability for my involvement.
If you be honest.
And be honest, right. And in that honesty, but they didn't allow me to speak in court. And so if I would have spoken in court, it would have sent my 2 co-defendants to death row because they didn't give us a severance. It's the laws, again, that Aaron spoke on. Certain laws don't allow us to be truthful. Certain laws don't allow us to be empathetic. They don't want to see that. So it forced me in a situation that I couldn't speak. And in that, I was given a life without sentence with my co-defendants.
So that's what I'm saying. How did you make, I'm now hearing that you helped Aaron and other people helped Aaron. Who helped you? How did you not, I'm just saying personally, I would live in a state of anger. That would be very hard.
I had to make a conscious decision. And I offer this to the guys all the time. We're not held accountable to what happens to us. All I can be responsible for is how I feel. And I'm not going to allow resentment. I'm not going to allow distrust, because that will kill you in there. I see why young people pick up knives and fight and go through all we go, because we're coming from points of distrust. We're coming from points of hurt, despair.
Yeah.
And so I made a conscious decision. Once again, I want to smile. I started smiling. It was radical to smile in prison. So I started a movement. All we're going to do is smile today. The CEOs couldn't stand it. And then I'm going to take it a step level. Remember, this is years before the data came out that smiling, there's healing in smiling. This is in the early 90s. Then we started from there just to hug. And I figured out that 90% of the men I was dealing with never been hugged by their fathers. They didn't even know their fathers. And then I took that one step further. But this is for my own healing, not just for them. I needed connection. I needed closeness. I come from a very tight-knit family. So being that I did not have that, I had to create what I didn't have. And this is where Aaron and thousands of other men, I'm talking about Crips and Bloods, thugs, I'm talking about skinheads, I'm talking about COs, even correctional officers, played into me showing up and being my best self. So if I was going to be incarcerated, I was going to be a revolutionist, and I was going to be known. If I had to die in prison, then I was going to disrupt the system, and that's what I did, and that led to my freedom. My physical freedom, that is.
That is, like, what you just explained is how when people say they don't believe in God or anything bigger, I'm like, I don't know how you don't when you hear something like that.
Right.
I don't know how you hear what you just heard and not believe in something bigger and powerful.
Right.
Like, because there's no way that, like, something had to be working through you. You're a vessel, like that. Something bigger has to be working.
I'm glad you said that. You know, being that I come from a very spiritual family, my father is a Muslim leader. My mother's an evangelist in South Carolina.
Yeah.
You feel me?
Yeah.
So I've always been in the intersection of spirituality, not religiosity.
Yeah.
So when we went into prison, I felt I was going to call everyone to their God, the God of their choice and the God of their choosing, and just worship him in spirit and truth. Call upon him in this moment. Embody all the love, embody all the kindness, embody all the hope into every moment of your day. Yeah. So if you had bad experiences that led you there, let's create good experiences.
That leads you out. Yeah.
The truth will set you free, and that was the truth that set me and the brother free, and now many others are able to come out and have these positive, good experiences. And us being here today is proof that the formula is working. You know, getting out was one aspect. Now, being here, being reintegrated into society in this way, and giving this kind of voice. So that's why I came out first and thanked you for being the first to see my brother and to call him to come, and him inviting me. And you accepted me here and your beautiful staff.
Absolutely. Oh my God.
So thank you.
I love you guys, the whole energy and this. I was telling him in the commercial break, Aaron, I was like, this is so important because I feel like we were talking about stereotypes. I feel like there's stereotypes for everyone. Yeah. It doesn't matter where you're from, where you come from, it's everyone. And it's so, I get why they exist, but at the same time, you can't lump everyone in one thing. And you can't lump all, inmates in here. You can't all jocks here, all whatever here, all nerds here. You know what I'm saying? You can't, everybody always has, society has these little things that they put people in, and it's like, you're not all lumped in there.
No,
we're all different, and that's great and beautiful. I mean, it should be celebrated.
Kelly, you said it. The spirituality, the Bible says, when I was a child, I thought and spake as a child, or I act as a child. But once I became a man, I had to put away childish things. I became a man in a level 4 institution, 130-degree weather, where violence was the currency. That's where I became a man at. That's where I became an adult. I was there for 20 years in Calipatria, Death Valley, 23rd Psalm, the valley of death, that's a reality in my life.
Wow.
So if we understand that, we are young people who became adults in that environment and through enormous odds had the capacity to love. When it wasn't a chic, it was no chronos to get, there was no commutations to be had, there was no one to highlight. We did it because we had the capacity to do so. So the whole thing, how many men could I get to believe that we are greater than our worst moments? And I believe as Americans, we need to picture, we have some bad moments right now in America. How can we rise above that? If two men can come out of prison from whole lifetimes in prison, 25 years, 30 years, and come out and say we're proofs of change, we're proof of redemption, and we're offering something to the world.
Well, and here's what I'd say. Imagine what you did, like what you said, imagine all those odds. Imagine what you did there and what the change you made there, and imagine what you could do out here. That's the even more beautiful thing.
That's it.
One of the things that we did that I actually learned from him was the first time he gave a religious sermon, and we went to the gym at Calipatria State Prison. And, you know, the Muslims came in and, you know, people associated with Islam. But I looked over to my right out on the yard, and there were skinheads, and there was La Raza, and every other gang you could possibly think of that couldn't fit into the gym was in the weight pit area so they can hear what was going on in there. Now, we're talking about a radical way of loving somebody. I'd never seen anything like that before, right? And it gave me the capacity to see that sometimes what we call ourselves as religious people gets in the way of our spiritual elevation as a spiritual person, right? And so when I left away from Calipatria State Prison and went to Centinela, again, using basketball as the vehicle to bring people together, I started implementing and pointing out these things to people, saying, listen, just because you're a Christian and I'm a Muslim, and just because this person's a Hebrew Israelite and this guy's a Sikh, right? It doesn't mean anything unless we allow it to mean something. What we should focus on is the spiritual development that we have inside of ourselves so we can rise above the physical confines and focus on the spirituality that connects us all together, right? And so with this type of knowledge, now I'm connecting to people on a different level. This is what he taught. Well, he taught me one thing. This my boy, right? He taught it to me one way, but then in my studies, I went and came out a different way.
Yeah.
You know, it's like
It's beautiful. And it all can coexist. Yeah.
And Ken, I want to share this as well, is that it was ridiculous to me watching young men get shot on the yard. Black men, brown men, Asian men, and white men. I've watched many people get killed. I thought about their parents. I thought about their children. And so what I could not connect to you intellectually, I know, as Maya Angelou says, if you speak from the heart, you can touch hearts. And so that's what I went to the yard doing. What separates us when the same bullet can hit you and devastate your mother? And so when he said people started to gravitate towards that, is because I came out of my head and fell into my heart and spoke from that. And that's what brought people together. But on a greater extent, it was basketball. Because you asked me, how did I do it? I prayed to God, but I took my frustrations out on the court. Because I was a pro-am basketball player. I became a celebrity on the court. And then I used that celebrity to call people to the chapel. And then it got so big, then I had to use the gym. So the connection with him, taking it to the next level and going to Centinela State Prison, San Quentin, cue ball, taken to the Warriors, and now we're on the cover, you feel me? So this is what happens when we come out of ourselves, drop out of our heads into our hearts, and jump into that human capacity to love on bold levels.
Definitely.
Yeah.
This is not just loving, but this is on bold levels.
Definitely.
I'm gonna say this, when I got my commutation, I left out the prison, an older guard ran and kissed me, a man, on my cheek. And he told me, Tobias, I am so proud of you. If anybody deserves to be free, this is a guard, a veteran, who ran up. That shows when we deal in heart space. When we understand the sunflower mantra, and the energy in which the precious sacred sunflower releases inside of a space, that we become sunflowers.
Yeah.
You know, we're rooted at our roots. Our faces are in the sun.
Yeah.
And so I thank you, and we're humbled.
God, I could listen to you all day. I can see why you needed the gym. I am like, oh, look, I haven't been to service in a minute, and I was like, wow, it's beautiful. I mean, I can only imagine what, you know, I see what you've done, but what you're going to do, it's amazing. I mean, is there anything you want to say to this man? Like, that the domino effect that occurred because of this man is amazing. And imagine all the lives.
Tobias, I don't even think I know how to form the words on this, because, I mean, when I needed a father, you was my father. When I needed a brother, you was my brother. When I needed a mentor, you was my mentor. When I needed somebody to love me beyond what I could even think, you was there, right? And a lot of times I sit back and I think, man, this dude's a few years younger than me.
5.
You know.
He said 5, you're old.
Yeah, because I'm 51.
You was younger than me, but you saw in me something that nobody else saw. And you decided to invest in me. And nobody had invested in me before. And so just for that, man, just thank you. Just thank you, you know, for the sake of God and for the sake of the people, that you saw in me something that nobody else saw, and you decided to invest love, wisdom, knowledge inside of me. And then you got to remember, me and this guy was only together on the yard together maybe 8 months. The majority of our development was 17 years of writing letters back and forth to each other.
Wow.
Right? 17 years of letters back and forth. And he's watched me grow spiritually. He's helped me grow mentally. So a lot of the things why I'm sitting here, right, outside of basketball is because of you, man. And I wanted to tell you thank you for that, bro.
Brother,
You know.
it touches my heart, because when you're speaking other people, only God knows the number. Thank y'all for giving me a chance, because without y'all, brother, I wouldn't have made it up out of there. It's terrible to have so much love in you and so much potential and capacity and passion, but if y'all didn't be bold enough to give it a chance, man, then I couldn't give it. And so we're proving that we only can give what we have, and we only can be who we are. And so when I seen that in you, I seen it in myself.
Right.
If they was gonna hold me in prison, you was gonna get out. And then I would get out through you. That was the method to my madness. Let me love on as many people as possible and bring them forth to their highest potential. So if they step out and I have to die within this place, then at least I invested in you, and you can go invest and tell our story to the world. So here I am working, brother. I was on the bluff, but I'm not bluffing. I'm working, I see your call, and you call and said, bro, Kelly Clarkson show want to talk to you. Are you willing? Of course. Tobias, do you want to come on? But that's because I invested. So now for you to remember me, and that's one thing about prison. Often when people get out, we come in as kids and we make a lot of promises to our friends in prison. So everybody's waiting, and you know, this is thousands of people.
Yeah.
But real life happens, COVID happens, bills happen, adult relationships happen. You know, come on. I went up to 260 pounds, eating sweets and everything else, bro, having to work out to get all the weight.
I've never been there, Tobias. I have no idea what you're talking about.
So real life happens.
I'm going to tell you one thing, right? I'm going to tell you one thing about Tobias.
So my point was for him to remember and to invite me here today.
Yeah. You're unforgettable. Let's leave it
Oh,
there. Yeah.
Just one regret, right? Now, while we were at Calipatria State Prison, I heard about Shaq on the basketball court, Tobias, right? But I never actually had the opportunity to do play-by-play.
Oh, well, that seems like that hasn't happened.
Oh, he's 25 years too late. But,
I would still watch that game. Well, you guys, this has quickly become my favorite show. I just love your spirit. I love your energy. I love your message. I think this is so important. And I think that you are so important. Like, imagine what you're supposed to do with the rest of your lives. Has yet to even happen. You know, it's an incredible thing.
Well, what I definitely plan on working with Shaq because he's still working with formerly incarcerated and people who are still incarcerated. He's still working with them, so I definitely plan on pairing with him once some of this stuff slows down in my life and making sure that we're still working on helping to heal people, you know, and bringing that message of healing and bringing rehabilitation in places and to people who aren't used to it, right? And so, and then on my personal goal, right, the WNBA, the NCAA.
Amen.
Yeah.
Matter of fact, let me look over here in the camera right here.
Look.
Let me make sure we clear about this. The NBA.
That's right, brother.
Cube. Ice Cube, if you're watching.
Yes, sir.
I'm from the West Side, baby. West, baby, West. Let's hook up this West Side connection. Let me get on the big three and stretch my resume out some more.
Yes, sir.
But right now, it really doesn't matter. Whoever wants me,
That's right.
I'm ready to work.
That's right.
I've been doing this for 26 years.
That's right.
I'm a communications master when it comes to this. Put your boy Aaron Showtime Taylor to work. Put me to work. I'm ready for this.
I love it. You better put him to work. I wish I owned a team. I wish Well, we need to take a break. We love you guys. Thank you so much, Tobias. Thank you, Aaron.
Thank you.
Like I said, these stories are so important. You know, and hopefully from this show too, everybody watching, it's thought-provoking. It starts conversations, and it creates, you know, more positive domino effects as you did, Tobias, and as you still are doing. Yep, I'm still here, just waiting for you to subscribe. If you don't, I'll be trapped in this box forever.